Welcome to my channel, and today I want to share a story that will leave you speechless. A story about betrayal, stolen futures, and a young woman whose life was nearly stolen by the people she trusted most. This is the journey of a granddaughter abandoned, a grandfather who fought to reclaim her life, and the incredible transformation that followed. It's a story of resilience, justice, and the power of second chances. Let's start. Billionaire Obinna Nwachukwu had always believed that his granddaughter was living a life of comfort and luxury under the care of her stepmother. For 18 years, he had faithfully sent $2 million, ensuring that Chidimma, his only grandchild, wanted for nothing. He had imagined her waking each morning in a sunlit room, studying diligently for school, enjoying warm meals, and playing with cousins in a spacious house adorned with every modern convenience. Yet nothing could have prepared him for the truth that Devon Okoye, a private investigator of unwavering reputation, delivered one bleak morning. The young girl he had lavished money upon was sleeping in a shelter on the outskirts of Lagos, clothed in donated garments that had clearly seen better days. Obinna's eyes fixed on the images Devon slid across his polished mahogany desk. Photographs of Chidimma, frail yet dignified, brushing her hair into a simple braid, her delicate hands submerged in soapy water as she scrubbed dishes in a communal kitchen. Each picture was a gut punch, shattering Obinna's perception of reality. Obinna had built an empire that stretched across West Africa, East Africa, and beyond, amassing wealth through commercial real estate, agriculture, and investments that had earned him a reputation as a visionary. From his office on the 72nd floor of the Lagos Sky Tower, he could see the city's heartbeat. Bustling streets, towering buildings, and the sprawling harbor where his ships carried trade across continents. Yet, all the wealth in the world seemed meaningless now. His granddaughter, the living legacy of his beloved daughter Ifeoma, was in dire need, and he had been blind to it for nearly 2 decades. "Mr. Nwachukwu," Devon said softly, leaning closer, "I followed every lead, visited every address you sent money to. The mansion on Victoria Island is occupied by her stepmother, Amara, and her 2 biological children. Private schools, tutors, holidays abroad, the life anyone would envy. But Chidimma, she's been at the Jubilee shelter in Surulere for the last 3 months. Before that, she lived in a dilapidated apartment on a Jose street, barely noticed by her landlord, who remembers a woman keeping her isolated. Then, 3 months ago, the woman disappeared, leaving the child behind with nothing." Obinna felt as if the world had stopped. 18 years of sending $10,000 each month had been a lifeline he imagined nurturing his granddaughter's growth. Yet it had been diverted into someone else's comfort. His mind flashed back to the worst day of his life, the day he had lost Ifeoma. She had been radiant. A young woman who worked tirelessly as a pediatric nurse and dreamed of opening a clinic to serve underprivileged communities. She had married Tunde Okoro, a dedicated teacher and coach, and their lives had been full of hope and laughter. But tragedy struck in a sudden car accident, leaving her pregnant and him gone. And complications in childbirth had claimed Ifeoma's life even as Chidimma drew her first breath. Obinna had been there in the hospital, watching helplessly, the weight of grief pressing down as he held his newborn granddaughter briefly in his arms. He had failed to protect his daughter. Now the nightmare was repeating itself in a different form. Amara, the stepmother, had presented herself as a savior 18 years prior, promising Obinna she would raise Chidimma with love alongside her own children. "I will give her the stability she needs," she had said, her words measured and warm. He had entrusted her with financial responsibility, thinking it was what Ifeoma would have wanted. Over nearly 2 decades, Obinna had maintained strict oversight through lawyers, but he had relied on Amara's assurances, drowning in his own grief and trusting family above all. Now he realized that trust had been exploited. As he stepped into the worn courtyard of Jubilee Shelter, the reality of Chidimma's life hit him like a physical blow. The building was a converted community center with cracked walls and faded paint. The smell of cooking mingled with industrial cleaner. Women and children moved quietly, some tending to younger siblings, others staring blankly at the floor. A matronly woman, Mrs. Adana, greeted him with a wary yet kind gaze, recognizing the prominent businessman immediately. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked in a voice carrying traces of a southern Nigerian dialect. "I'm looking for Chidima," Obinna said, voice thick with emotion. "She's my granddaughter." Guided into the kitchen, Obinna saw her. Tall, slender, natural hair braided simply, wearing a worn sweatshirt and jeans, washing dishes with a dignity that belied her surroundings. For 18 years, this child had been surviving in conditions no one should endure, while every month her inheritance, meant to secure her future, had been siphoned off. "Chidima," Mrs. Adana called softly, "your grandfather is here." The young woman's face registered confusion, hesitation, and a fragile hope. As she approached, Obinna's heart ached seeing the resemblance to Ifeoma, the same high cheekbones, the same intelligent, wary eyes. "Do you know who I am?" he asked, voice barely steady. "I am your grandfather." The realization struck Chidima like a storm. Her stepmother had told her the man she had never known abandoned her, blamed her for her mother's death, and that she was alone in the world. Tears welled in Obinna's eyes as he opened the folder Devon had provided. Bank statements, records of every transfer for 18 years, all misappropriated by Amara. "Every penny I sent," he said, "was for you, Chidima. You were meant to have opportunities, education, a future. You were meant to thrive." That day marked the beginning of a new chapter. Chidima, cautious but resolute, left the shelter with her grandfather, carrying only a small backpack of belongings and a single photograph of her mother, the only gift Amara had given her before casting her aside. The Mercedes ride back to Obinna's penthouse was quiet, the cityscape a blur as the past 18 years of neglect and deception weighed heavily on them both. Inside the penthouse, the grandeur of wealth collided with the reality of 18 lost years. But here, Chidima would finally have safety, nourishment, education, and, most importantly, love. Obinna immediately set to work uncovering the full extent of Amara's betrayal, employing forensic accountants, lawyers, and investigators. The evidence was damning. A luxurious house, cars, vacations abroad, tuition for her own children. All paid for with Chidima's funds. Worse, the isolation had been deliberate, preventing the child from forming friendships or experiencing the world, and Amara had discarded her the moment she reached adulthood. Justice would be served, but before that, Obinna focused on Chidima, ensuring she had food, clothing, and the warmth of family she had been denied for far too long. As the first days passed, Chidima began to reclaim her life. She learned about her mother through photographs, letters, and stories from Obinna. She absorbed lessons in business, history, and family legacy. Slowly, laughter returned, trust was rebuilt, and the foundations of a relationship stolen for nearly 2 decades were laid. One shared meal, one conversation, and one small moment at a time. After the drive from Jubilee Shelter, Chidima hesitated at the threshold of Obinna Nwachukwu's penthouse. The doors, polished and massive, seemed to separate 2 worlds, the one she had endured and the one she had been denied. The air inside smelled faintly of sandalwood and polished wood, a subtle reminder of wealth so abundant it was almost alien to her. Akila, the housekeeper who had served Obinna for over 20 years, approached gently, sensing the quiet awe and apprehension radiating from the young woman. She guided Chidima to a guest room larger than the apartment she had grown up in, laid out a bath with scented oils, and arranged fresh clothes in soothing colors. The smallest gestures spoke volumes, and Chidima could feel the weight of 18 years of neglect lift fractionally. Meanwhile, Obinna was already at work. With Devon's help, he began to trace every transaction made over the last 18 years. Every bank transfer, every withdrawal, every luxury purchased, all of it meticulously documented. Amara's pattern was clear. She had siphoned funds into personal accounts, then used the money for her own comfort, and ensured Chidima remained isolated. Obinna felt a rising fury he had never experienced before. He had lost his daughter, and now, for nearly 2 decades, another betrayal had stolen the future he had wanted to secure for her child. He could not allow this injustice to stand. Yet amid the anger, there was a quiet focus on Chidima. He would not allow the pain of her past to define her present. He sat with her in the study, showing photographs of Ifeoma as a child, a teenager, and a young mother. He spoke of the family's history, of ancestors who had overcome poverty, colonial oppression, and hardship to build businesses and lives of dignity. Slowly, Chidima absorbed these stories, her eyes wide with wonder at the life she had been denied knowing. Obinna reminded her repeatedly she was no longer alone. She was loved, she was seen, and her life, stolen as it had been, could still be reclaimed. The first night, sleep was restless for both of them. Chidima, curled in the crisp sheets of the guest room, felt the strange mixture of safety and disbelief. Could this be real? Could wealth and comfort finally be hers? Obinna, pacing in his study, reflected on every mistake, every moment he had failed to intervene, every time he had allowed grief to convince him that money was enough. He resolved that nothing would be too great to restore her life. The following morning, the investigation intensified. Devon and Obinna began to compile evidence for legal proceedings against Amara. Bank records, receipts, witness testimonies, and photographs painted a damning picture. Luxury cars, extravagant vacations, designer clothing, all purchased with the money intended for Chidima. Moreover, letters and neighbors' accounts confirmed that Amara had kept the girl isolated, homeschooling her not out of love or necessity, but to ensure she remained voiceless, invisible, and dependent. Obinna and Chidima also began to rebuild the trust that had been stolen. He insisted she eat regular meals, attend a proper school to prepare for university, and regain the confidence and knowledge she had been denied. Slowly, she began to laugh again, to ask questions, and to dream. The dreams that had been suffocated under Amara's control were cautiously reawakening. One afternoon, Chidima asked to visit Jubilee Shelter again. She wanted to see Mrs. Adana, to thank the woman who had given her the barest of stability and recognized the spark within her. The visit was emotional. Chidima walked through the same narrow hallways she had once felt trapped in, now aware of the stark contrast between her past and present. She spoke with younger girls who reminded her of herself, sharing her story in a measured way, offering hope, and planting the seed of possibility that there could be a future beyond the walls of a shelter. The morning sun cast a soft glow over Lagos as Obinna Nwachukwu prepared for the first formal confrontation with Amara. Legal advisors had urged caution, insisting that court proceedings alone should suffice. But Obinna felt the need to see her face to face, to hear her own words, and to gauge the depth of her deception. Chidima, despite initial hesitation, insisted on accompanying him. "She stole my life, grandfather," she said quietly, her voice firm with determination. "I deserve to confront her myself." Amara's mansion in Victoria Island stood in stark contrast to Chidima as years of struggle. Sprawling gardens, marble floors, and the faint scent of imported flowers. Amara herself appeared at the door, expecting perhaps a neighbor or a delivery, and froze when she saw Obinna and Chidima together. The disbelief and panic that flickered across her face was satisfying to witness. For 18 years, she had hidden behind lies, confident that her theft would remain invisible. Now, she could not escape the truth. Obinna wasted no words. "Amara," he said, his tone cold yet precise, "for 18 years I entrusted you with my granddaughter's life and resources. Tell me now, where is every penny I sent for Chidima?" Amara's face paled further, and she stumbled over excuses. I provided for her. I gave her a home, food, education. She wanted for nothing," she stammered, though the conviction in her voice was feeble. Chidima, standing tall despite the intensity of the moment, spoke for the first time. "You kept me in a small apartment, homeschooled me so I couldn't meet anyone, gave me leftover food, hand-me-down clothes, and when I turned 18, you threw me out with nothing, no money, no documents, no support." Her words, steady and piercing, filled the room like a sword cutting through years of deception. Obinna presented the evidence compiled by Devon and the forensic accountants. Bank statements showing every transaction, transfers siphoned into Amara's personal accounts, purchases for luxury vehicles, overseas vacations, private schooling for her biological children, and a house purchased entirely with Chidima's funds. The room seemed to shrink as the weight of her crimes was laid bare. Amara's defenses crumbled, replaced by a mixture of rage and resentment. "You think I was wrong?" she spat. "My children had needs too. Your granddaughter received more than enough. She is your child, yes, but my children are my blood." "No," Obina said firmly. "You stole from a child, exploited her, and isolated her for your own gain. You disregarded her humanity. That is not protection, that is theft, that is cruelty, and you will answer for it." The conversation ended as law enforcement arrived, acting on the prepared arrest warrants. Amara's 2 children, now teenagers, watched in stunned silence as their mother was taken away. Obina reassured them gently that they would be cared for, their innocence preserved despite their mother's crimes. Chidima, though shaken, felt a profound sense of justice. Her voice had been heard, her pain validated, and her life could finally begin on her own terms. In the weeks following the confrontation, Chidima began integrating into a world previously denied to her. She attended preparatory courses for university, learning subjects that had been withheld from her under Amara's control. Obina guided her through financial literacy, social etiquette, and the lessons of a family legacy that stretched back generations. Slowly, her confidence grew, her laughter returned, and her intellect, previously constrained, flourished. Devon's investigation continued to unravel the full extent of Amara's deception. Evidence confirmed the deliberate isolation, the misappropriation of funds, and the emotional manipulation designed to keep Chidima dependent and voiceless. Every detail strengthened the legal case and prepared the foundation for restitution. One afternoon, Chidima requested a visit to her old neighborhood. She walked quietly through streets that had once been her entire world, absorbing the contrast between the life she had endured and the life now opening before her. The visit was bittersweet. Memories of hardship mingled with the nascent understanding that she was no longer defined by that pain. Mrs. Adana met her at the shelter, embracing her warmly. Chidima promised to return, to use her newfound resources to help others trapped in similar circumstances. The courtroom in Lagos was buzzing with anticipation. The story of Chidima Nwachukwu and Amara Okeke had drawn attention far beyond the city. An heiress stolen from her own life, a grandmother fighting for justice, and a stepmother's betrayal so deep it shocked everyone who heard it. Obinna sat beside Chidima, his hand occasionally brushing hers, a silent reassurance that she was no longer alone. Chidima's nerves were tempered by determination. This was the moment her voice could be heard, and her stolen years accounted for. The trial began with the reading of charges: embezzlement, fraud, identity theft, child neglect, and psychological abuse. The prosecuting attorney presented evidence with meticulous clarity. Bank statements, transaction records, luxury receipts, and photographs documented every indulgence Amara had purchased with funds meant for Chidima. Each item, each expense, was a testament to betrayal. A childhood bought with money and then discarded when inconvenient. Amara sat across the courtroom, composed at first. But as the evidence accumulated, her facade cracked. Witnesses testified one by one. Neighbors recalled glimpses of Chidima in the cramped apartment, rarely outside, quiet, withdrawn. Former tutors described lessons that were incomplete, designed more for control than education. Mrs. Adana recounted the young woman she had taken in at the shelter. Malnourished, isolated, but with a spark of intelligence and resilience that no abuse had extinguished. When it was Chidima's turn, she rose with poise. Her voice was steady, even as she described the years of manipulation and neglect. The lies about her grandfather and the cruel abandonment on her 18th birthday. She spoke of sleeping in parks and public libraries, of the loneliness that had been her companion for 18 years, and of the hope that had kept her moving forward. The courtroom was silent, hanging on her words, the gravity of the betrayal weighing on everyone present. Obina had ensured that every legal step was precise. The forensic accountant confirmed the misappropriation of funds, showing transfers from Chidima's account into Amara's personal accounts, payments for Amara's children's private education, overseas vacations, and luxury goods. Every dollar was accounted for, and every misused dollar was connected directly to the deprivation Chidima had endured. Amara's defense faltered. She argued that she had provided for the girl and that her actions had been justified, but her words were hollow against the mountain of evidence. The jury, composed of community members aware of the impact of child neglect and financial exploitation, deliberated for only a few hours before returning with a verdict: guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Amara to 12 years in federal prison and ordered full restitution of all misappropriated funds. Her assets, including the Oak Park mansion, luxury vehicles, and other property purchased with Chidima's money, were seized and placed into a protected trust for Chidima. As the courtroom emptied, Chidima felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Justice had been served, but more importantly, her story had been acknowledged, validated, and protected for the future. She turned to Obinna, eyes shining with gratitude and a burgeoning sense of purpose. "We did it, grandfather," she said quietly. Obinna smiled, but there was no celebrating in the traditional sense. There was work to be done: healing, rebuilding, and empowering Chidima to reclaim the life that had been stolen from her. Over the next weeks, he helped her enroll in preparatory courses for university, introduced her to mentors, and guided her through a process of emotional and practical recovery. Chidima began to explore interests long denied to her: literature, community service, and social advocacy. She also returned to Jubilee Shelter regularly, now as a visitor and mentor. She shared her story with the young women there, offering hope and practical guidance. Working with Obinna, she helped establish a scholarship fund to support education and skills development for girls who had aged out of foster care or experienced homelessness. Through her advocacy, Chidima began to see her pain transformed into purpose, and the sense of isolation that had marked her childhood began to fade. The first day at Lagos Metropolitan University was unlike anything Chidima had ever experienced. She walked through the gates with a mixture of awe and apprehension, the bustling campus alive with students laughing, chatting, and moving between classes. The buildings gleamed in the midday sun, libraries and laboratories promising a future she had long dreamed of, but never dared to imagine. Obinna walked beside her, offering guidance, encouragement, and quiet reassurance. "Remember," he said, "this is your space now. You belong here as much as anyone else." Chidima's first classes were overwhelming. Subjects she had been deprived of under Amara's control, literature, mathematics, social sciences, now demanded not just attention, but understanding. At times she struggled to keep up, frustrated by the gaps in her knowledge. But with Obinna's support, tutoring, and sheer determination, she slowly found her rhythm. Late nights were spent in the library, poring over books, taking meticulous notes, and asking questions she had never felt free to ask before. The spark of curiosity that had been suppressed for 18 years began to shine brightly. Outside the classroom, Chidima faced the challenges of social integration. She had grown up isolated, and interacting with peers initially felt like navigating a foreign landscape. She observed other students effortlessly forming friendships, discussing topics she had only read about in books, and participating in social activities with ease. At first, she felt shy and uncertain, retreating into quiet observation. But she gradually found allies, fellow students who recognized her intelligence and determination, who respected her story and offered support. Small gestures, a shared lunch, a study group, a friendly conversation, helped her feel less like an outsider and more like a participant in the life she had long been denied. Obinna remained a steady presence, attending meetings with professors, arranging mentors, and ensuring Chidima's transition was as smooth as possible. Yet he also encouraged independence, reminding her that she had the strength to navigate challenges herself. "You are not defined by what happened to you," he said one evening as they walked through the campus gardens. "You are defined by what you choose to do with the life you now have." In addition to her studies, Chidima began volunteering at Jubilee Shelter again, this time with a newfound sense of purpose. She guided younger girls through applications for scholarships, organized educational workshops, and shared her story as both caution and inspiration. Her experiences gave her a unique empathy, and her presence became a beacon of hope. Watching the girls respond, slowly gaining confidence and ambition, Chidima realized the full power of her journey, from victim to advocate, from silence to voice. During these months, Obina also continued the painstaking process of ensuring financial stability and justice. Every cent stolen by Amara had been traced, returned, and placed under a secure trust with legal oversight. Chidima now had access to funds for her education, health, and personal development. For the first time in her life, she could plan a future without fear, without deprivation, without manipulation. The nights remained contemplative. Sometimes, Chidima would sit by the window of her university dorm, gazing at the city lights and reflecting on the life she had been denied. Memories of Amara's lies, the shelters, and lonely nights were painful, but they were no longer chains. Instead, they were reminders of resilience, courage, and the power of reclaiming one's story. As the semester progressed, Chidima began to settle into her new life, discovering dimensions of herself that had been suppressed for years. Classes no longer felt intimidating. She asked questions, participated in discussions, and began to excel academically. Her professors quickly noticed her intelligence and determination, and some even offered mentorship, impressed by both her resilience and her ambition. Chidima realized she had an untapped potential that, until now, had been stifled by isolation and neglect. Outside the classroom, Chidima formed meaningful friendships. She gravitated towards students who shared her passion for social justice, mentorship, and community development. Through study groups, extracurricular activities, and casual conversations, she learned the intricacies of collaboration, leadership, and empathy. These relationships were new to her, and she sometimes struggled with trust, remembering years of betrayal. But slowly, the warmth of genuine connection began to erode her hesitancy. She laughed more freely, participated in social events, and allowed herself to dream again. Dreams that extended beyond survival to influence and impact. Her volunteer work at Jubilee Shelter deepened. Chidima began to lead workshops on financial literacy, confidence building, and career planning for young women. She worked with Obina to establish mentorship programs, pairing university students with shelter residents to provide guidance and support. Through these efforts, she discovered a talent for leadership and organization, her own hardships fueling an authenticity that inspired others. The young women she mentored began to see possibilities they had never imagined, and Chidima realized her story could be a powerful tool for transformation. In the meantime, Obina continued to share the family legacy with Chidima. He introduced her to distant relatives, who welcomed her with warmth and curiosity. They shared stories of ancestors who had fought for education, justice, and social advancement, reinforcing the notion that resilience and courage were inherited traits. Chidima felt a growing pride in her heritage, a sense of belonging that had been absent for 18 years. Amid her personal growth, Chidima also began to explore talents that had remained dormant. She had an affinity for writing and storytelling, capturing her experiences and reflections in journals, essays, and short narratives. Her natural ability to articulate both emotion and insight soon translated into community initiatives, speeches at school events, and contributions to local publications advocating for youth empowerment and gender equality. Her voice, once silenced, was now reaching audiences eager for guidance and inspiration. Despite her progress, moments of vulnerability remained. Memories of Amara's betrayal, of nights spent hungry or alone, occasionally resurfaced. Chidima often confided in Obina during these moments, allowing him to remind her that the past could not define her, only inform her strength. He encouraged her to channel these experiences into purpose, transforming pain into action. Slowly, Chidima internalized this philosophy, finding comfort in the knowledge that survival had given her a unique perspective and power. By the start of her second year at Lagos Metropolitan University, Chidima had grown more confident, both academically and personally. Her experiences had shaped her into a young woman determined not just to succeed for herself, but to create opportunities for others who had been marginalized. She began planning a scholarship initiative in collaboration with Obina, aimed at providing young women from shelters and foster homes with access to higher education, mentorship, and personal development. She called it the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship, a tribute to the life she had reclaimed and a promise to those who had yet to find their voice. Chidima quickly realized that building such an initiative required more than passion. It required strategy, resources, and partnerships. She met with non-profit organizations, educational foundations, and local businesses, articulating her vision with clarity and conviction. Her ability to share her story authentically made her persuasive, and soon she secured funding commitments, mentorship volunteers, and community support. She learned to navigate bureaucracy, draft proposals, and advocate for resources, skills that would serve her not only in philanthropy, but in her future career. At the same time, Chidima continued to excel academically. She focused her studies on social work, psychology, and community development, determined to understand systemic barriers to education, housing, and equality. Professors praised her insight and research skills, noting how her lived experiences informed her perspective, giving her work depth and credibility. She became a sought-after collaborator for group projects, presentations, and volunteer initiatives, her quiet resilience translating into leadership. Outside the classroom, Chidima expanded her volunteer work at Jubilee Shelter. She implemented structured programs for residents, covering financial literacy, college preparation, and career development. She held workshops that addressed mental health, resilience, and self-esteem. Topics she wished someone had shared with her during her years of isolation. Her presence inspired trust and admiration, and over time, the shelter transformed into a hub of hope, skill building, and empowerment for young women who had faced similar struggles. Amid this whirlwind of academic and community work, Chidima began exploring other aspects of her identity. She enrolled in creative writing and art classes, finding solace and expression in storytelling, painting, and photography. These creative pursuits became outlets for processing trauma and celebrating her journey. Her journals and artwork gradually developed into pieces that she would later use in workshops, connecting her story to broader narratives of survival and empowerment. Family life with Obina had also deepened. Their bond, once tentative and shaped by years of absence, became rooted in trust, affection, and shared purpose. Obina encouraged Chidima to embrace opportunities, explore passions, and take risks, providing guidance without imposing limits. He also emphasized the importance of self-care, reminding her that strength did not require sacrificing well-being. Together, they celebrated milestones, academic achievements, and the small victories of everyday life, moments that had been denied for 18 years. As Chidima's scholarship initiative gained momentum, she encountered challenges she hadn't anticipated. While support from local organizations and philanthropists was strong, navigating bureaucratic hurdles proved daunting. Permissions, legal frameworks, and compliance regulations required careful attention. Chidima realized that good intentions alone were not enough. To protect and empower the young women she wanted to help, she needed strategy, persistence, and a deep understanding of systemic structures. One afternoon, Chidima and Obina met with a group of education officials to discuss partnerships. The officials were polite but skeptical, questioning her ability to manage funds, vet candidates, and maintain accountability. Chidima presented her plan with clarity and conviction, detailing mentorship programs, financial oversight, and transparent application processes. She shared her own story, emphasizing that her lived experience gave her insight into the barriers many young women face. Slowly, the officials softened, impressed by her preparation and integrity. At the same time, Amara's shadow lingered. Though imprisoned, news of the trial and restitution brought whispers and rumors. Some families who had known Chidima under Amara's care questioned the legitimacy of her claims or expressed envy over her newfound resources. Chidima had to navigate these social complexities delicately, asserting her independence while maintaining humility. She learned the power of composure and tact, understanding that not all battles required confrontation, but all required vigilance. University life continued to expand Chidima's world. She joined student organizations focused on women's rights, social justice, and community development. Leading projects, organizing workshops, and speaking at seminars, she became known as a voice for the marginalized. Her confidence grew with each challenge she overcame. She learned to advocate publicly, to negotiate partnerships, and to inspire peers to participate in initiatives that mattered. Her experiences at Jubilee Shelter informed her decisions, ensuring that her advocacy remained grounded in practical realities. Alongside her activism, Chidimma nurtured personal growth. She developed hobbies she had never explored: photography, creative writing, and public speaking. These activities became not only outlets for self-expression, but tools for empowerment. She held exhibitions of her artwork at the university, using them to tell stories of resilience and hope. Her essays on social justice and youth empowerment began to attract attention from local publications, allowing her voice to reach wider audiences. Obinna watched her transformation with pride and cautious admiration. He guided her when needed, but allowed her to make decisions, even mistakes, knowing that independence was essential for leadership. Together, they worked on a long-term plan to expand the scholarship initiative, envisioning mentorship programs that would reach across Nigeria, connecting urban and rural youth with resources, education, and inspiration. By the start of her third year at Lagos Metropolitan University, Chidimma's vision for the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship had grown beyond the city limits. She began exploring ways to expand the program nationwide, connecting with shelters, orphanages, and youth organizations across Nigeria. The goal was ambitious: to create a network of support that provided education, mentorship, and resources for young women who had experienced neglect, abandonment, or systemic injustice. Expansion, however, brought new challenges. Some local leaders and organizations were skeptical of her youth and questioned her ability to manage a nationwide initiative. Others feared accountability issues or saw her program as competition to existing foundations. Chidimma faced criticism and doubt, but she drew strength from her experiences, knowing firsthand the urgency of her mission. She meticulously documented plans, created transparent financial procedures, and established partnerships with trusted mentors and advisors to ensure credibility. During this period, Chidimma also confronted her own lingering trauma. Memories of Amara's betrayal and the years of neglect resurfaced during moments of stress or doubt. Counseling sessions became an essential part of her routine, helping her process feelings of anger, sadness, and vulnerability. She learned that leadership did not mean ignoring her emotional needs. Rather, it required understanding them, finding balance, and modeling resilience for the young women she served. At the same time, her social circle and influence were expanding. Fellow students, alumni, and activists recognized her commitment and began to offer support, ranging from volunteer mentorship to logistical and financial aid. She developed a small but dedicated team, each member carefully selected for their skills, reliability, and shared vision. Together, they began traveling to other states, hosting workshops, identifying candidates for scholarships, and fostering local mentorship networks. Chidimma's presence became a symbol of possibility, proof that adversity could be transformed into impact. As her scholarship initiative grew, Chidimma also became more involved in university leadership. She organized conferences on youth empowerment, chaired panels on social justice, and collaborated with government officials to identify systemic barriers that prevented young women from accessing education. Each challenge, each obstacle, became an opportunity to refine her approach, strengthen her resolve, and expand her influence. Despite the increasing demands, Chidimma maintained her studies and personal growth. She continued her creative pursuits, blending storytelling, photography, and advocacy to reach wider audiences. Her writing, now informed by both personal experience and research, was published in university journals and local magazines, highlighting issues of youth vulnerability, systemic inequality, and women's empowerment. These platforms allowed her to amplify the voices of those who were often unheard, turning personal pain into collective advocacy. Obinna remained a constant presence, offering guidance without dominating her choices. He introduced her to networks of professionals, philanthropists, and activists who could support her initiatives. He also reminded her of the importance of patience, strategy, and self-care, ensuring she did not sacrifice her well-being for ambition. Together, they navigated media attention, logistical challenges, and bureaucratic obstacles, always keeping the focus on the young women they sought to empower. Chidima facing one of the most significant challenges of her young life. As the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship expanded into multiple states, she encountered resistance not from doubt in her vision, but from entrenched systems that sought to maintain control over resources and influence. Certain local administrators attempted to slow approvals, demanded excessive documentation, and questioned her authority over funding disbursements. It became clear that ambition and passion alone would not suffice. She needed strategy, diplomacy, and resilience. Chidima rose to the challenge with precision. She organized meetings with state officials, presenting clear objectives, transparent financial plans, and evidence of prior success. She leveraged media coverage to highlight the positive impact of her scholarship, using public attention to reinforce accountability and credibility. At the same time, she cultivated a network of allies among educators, local leaders, and non-profit organizations, ensuring that her initiatives would not be stalled by bureaucracy. This balancing act between advocacy, negotiation, and leadership tested her in ways she had never imagined, but each challenge strengthened her resolve. Her mentorship programs also expanded, with young women from different states now joining workshops, virtual study groups, and career guidance sessions. Chidima traveled extensively, often juggling classes and volunteer commitments, meeting with students in rural and urban areas alike. She shared her story openly, emphasizing that resilience, education, and community support could transform lives. Many of the young women she mentored were experiencing circumstances similar to those she had faced. For them, Chidima's journey was both validation and inspiration. Meanwhile, Chidima continued her personal growth. She pursued creative writing, using it to process her experiences and articulate her vision for a more just society. Her essays and articles appeared in publications focused on social issues, reaching audiences far beyond the university. She began collaborating with other young leaders, forming coalitions to address systemic barriers to education, healthcare, and housing. Her voice became recognized as a symbol of resilience, advocacy, and ethical leadership. Family remained central to her stability and sense of identity. Obina continued to support her, offering guidance, introducing her to influential contacts, and helping her navigate complex social and professional situations. Together, they established a structure to oversee scholarship distribution, mentorship programs, and educational workshops, ensuring that the initiative could scale responsibly. Nwachukwu's Second Chance Scholarship had grown from a local program into a nationwide movement, with Chidima at its heart, embodying both the mission and the values it stood for. Even as her responsibilities multiplied, Chidima remained grounded. She maintained her studies, excelled academically, and nurtured relationships with friends and mentors who provided emotional support. She found solace in creative pursuits, writing, painting, and photography, which allowed her to reflect, recharge, and translate experience into meaningful expression. She also revisited Jubilee Shelter regularly, mentoring residents, tracking their progress, and listening to their stories. These visits reminded her why she fought so hard. She understood deeply that opportunity, guidance, and care could change the trajectory of a life. Chidima had emerged as a fully realized leader, someone who had transformed personal tragedy into a platform for empowerment, advocacy, and systemic change. She had faced bureaucracy, resistance, and skepticism, yet she remained steadfast. Her scholarship initiative had matured into a sustainable program that would impact generations of young women. The story of betrayal, abandonment, and neglect that had once defined her childhood was now a testament to resilience, courage, and the transformative power of love, mentorship, and opportunity. Chidima, embracing her evolving role as both a mentor and a leader. By now, the Nwachukwu's Second Chance Scholarship had established a clear framework. Applicants were vetted carefully, mentorship programs were in place, and scholarship recipients were monitored for both academic progress and personal development. Chidima recognized that her responsibility extended beyond funding. She needed to cultivate resilience, self-confidence, and critical thinking among the young women she served. To accomplish this, she began hosting intensive leadership workshops during university breaks. Students traveled from across Nigeria to attend, eager to learn from someone who had lived through hardship and emerged with purpose. Chidinma designed these workshops to cover practical skills, financial literacy, career planning, conflict resolution, as well as emotional intelligence, self-advocacy, and resilience training. Her lived experience made her guidance tangible. She didn't just lecture, she demonstrated the power of overcoming adversity and turning challenges into opportunity. While mentoring others, Chidinma also continued to grow personally. She sought advanced opportunities for learning, attending conferences on social innovation, public policy, and gender equality. She forged connections with thought leaders and philanthropists, gaining insights into sustainable program management and advocacy on national and international levels. Each new relationship became a potential resource for her scholarship initiative, and she learned to navigate the delicate balance between collaboration and maintaining the mission's integrity. As her influence grew, so did scrutiny. Critics questioned her youth, her unconventional methods, and her authority. There were moments when public commentary questioned whether someone so young and untested could manage nationwide programs. Some media narratives even tried to frame her as opportunistic, undermining her credibility. Chidinma confronted these criticisms with poise, using facts, outcomes, and the voices of the young women she had helped to counter false narratives. She learned the importance of patience, professionalism, and steadfast commitment to evidence and results. Her personal life continued to evolve alongside her professional endeavors. Chidinma maintained her close bond with Obinna, who now acted not only as a mentor, but as a strategic advisor. He encouraged her to delegate tasks, strengthen her leadership team, and balance ambition with well-being. Their relationship modeled trust, mutual respect, and collaboration. An example Chidinma hoped her mentees would emulate in their own future endeavors. Amid these challenges and responsibilities, Chidinma did not neglect her roots. She frequently returned to Jubilee Shelter, maintaining direct contact with those the scholarship aimed to support. She conducted interviews with potential candidates, shared her story openly, and built personal relationships with each participant. Her presence reassured the young women that someone truly understood their struggles and believed in their potential. These interactions also reinforced Chidinma's empathy and sharpened her problem-solving skills, ensuring the scholarship's impact remained authentic and meaningful. Chidinma had matured into a leader who could navigate complexity with grace, compassion, and intelligence. She had turned personal trauma into a catalyst for systemic change, combining empathy with strategic thinking to empower young women nationwide. Her life's narrative was no longer defined by betrayal or neglect, but by her ability to create opportunity, inspire confidence, and build a legacy that would endure far beyond her own time. Chidinma contemplating the next phase of the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship, international expansion. Inspired by success in multiple Nigerian states, she envisioned creating a network across West Africa to support young women facing similar circumstances. The idea was ambitious, requiring cross-border collaboration, funding strategies, and careful cultural adaptation. Yet Chidinma felt compelled to act. Her own story had shown her that opportunity could alter the trajectory of a life, and she wanted to extend that possibility to as many girls as possible. Preparing for expansion introduced new complexities. Chidinma and her team conducted research on educational systems, legal requirements, and social service infrastructures in neighboring countries. They consulted local leaders, educators, and social workers to ensure the program would respect cultural contexts while remaining true to its core mission. These conversations revealed both opportunities and obstacles. While many communities welcomed the idea, others were wary of foreign intervention or skeptical of a young woman leading a large initiative. Chidinma learned that leadership required not just vision, but diplomacy, adaptability, and patience. Ethical dilemmas also emerged. With funds from multiple sources now flowing into the scholarship program, Chidinma faced the challenge of allocating resources fairly, prioritizing applicants with greatest need, and maintaining transparency across borders. She wrestled with questions of merit versus necessity, ensuring that scholarships empowered recipients rather than creating dependency. These decisions weighed heavily on her. Each choice had real consequences for lives and futures. She relied on her advisory team, including Obinna, to provide perspective, but ultimately she recognized that leadership demanded accountability for decisions only she could make. At the same time, Chidima's personal growth continued. She cultivated resilience in the face of criticism and setbacks, learning to separate constructive feedback from negativity or envy. She honed her public speaking, negotiation, and organizational skills, often working late into the night to draft proposals, build networks, and mentor scholarship candidates. Her determination became a model for the young women she guided, showing that diligence and courage could overcome systemic barriers and societal doubt. During this period, Chidima also fostered mentorship programs, connecting past scholarship recipients with current applicants. Alumni shared experiences, offered guidance, and provided emotional support. This approach created a self-sustaining cycle of empowerment, ensuring that each generation contributed to the next. Chidima recognized that the most enduring impact came not just from financial support, but from building a community rooted in encouragement, knowledge, and accountability. Amid professional and philanthropic growth, Chidima also nurtured her own well-being. She maintained a balance between activism, study, and personal life, exploring hobbies like creative writing, photography, and storytelling. These outlets provided perspective, renewed energy, and the ability to process complex emotions. She also remained grounded through regular visits to Jubilee Shelter and similar facilities, keeping her connected to the realities that had inspired her journey. Chidima was poised at the threshold of a transformative stage in her life. She had proven herself as a resilient leader, an advocate for vulnerable youth, and a strategic thinker capable of navigating complex systems. With plans to expand internationally, she prepared to extend her vision beyond national borders, ensuring that the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship could impact countless lives. The story of her early betrayal had now been fully transformed into one of empowerment, systemic change, and a legacy of leadership that would continue to grow. Chidima, embarking on the first phase of the international expansion of the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship. She focused initially on Ghana and Senegal, two countries where research had shown both high rates of youth vulnerability and strong local interest in educational initiatives. With Obinna and a small team of trusted advisors, she began coordinating with local NGOs, school administrators, and community leaders to design a program that would respect cultural norms while maintaining the scholarship's core mission of empowerment, education, and mentorship. Logistical challenges emerged almost immediately. Differences in legal frameworks, banking systems, and education policies meant that scholarship funds could not simply be transferred as they were in Nigeria. Each country required detailed documentation, contracts, and oversight. Chidima took it upon herself to learn the intricacies of cross-border program management, attending workshops, consulting legal experts, and studying local regulations. She approached each obstacle methodically, demonstrating the same precision and determination that had guided her scholarship program at home. Cultural adaptation was equally important. Chidima knew that a one-size-fits-all approach would fail. She worked closely with local mentors and educators to design leadership workshops, study support programs, and community outreach initiatives that resonated with local values and traditions. She also emphasized empowerment, encouraging scholarship recipients to pursue goals beyond societal expectations while respecting the communities that nurtured them. This delicate balance required humility, attentiveness, and continuous dialogue, skills Chidima had developed through years of navigating her own complex past. While the international launch was underway, Chidima continued to manage the Nigerian scholarship program. She delegated responsibilities to a growing team of capable leaders, ensuring that operations remained smooth. Alumni mentorship networks were strengthened, financial reporting systems were refined, and leadership training modules were enhanced. She monitored these processes closely, knowing that her reputation and the program's credibility depended on transparency, accountability, and tangible results. Public recognition followed swiftly. Media outlets across West Africa highlighted her efforts, portraying her as a young leader transforming personal adversity into Pan-African impact. Her story became symbolic. A survivor who had endured betrayal and abandonment, yet now led initiatives that changed lives. Chidima received invitations to speak at conferences, universities, and youth forums, and she used each platform to emphasize the importance of opportunity, mentorship, and community support. Despite increasing responsibilities and visibility, Chidima remained grounded in her mission. She frequently returned to shelters, personally meeting with scholarship candidates, listening to their stories, and ensuring that their voices informed program decisions. She knew that maintaining a connection to the young women she served was crucial to preventing the program from becoming abstract or bureaucratic. Every success story reminded her of why she had started this journey and reinforced her commitment to justice, equity, and empowerment. Chidima had successfully launched the first international scholarships, navigated cultural and logistical challenges, and begun solidifying her reputation as a Pan-African leader. She had demonstrated that adversity could be transformed into systemic change, that personal trauma could fuel leadership, and that vision combined with persistence could create lasting impact across borders. An unexpected crisis threatening the international expansion of the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship. One of Chidima's partner NGOs in Senegal reported a significant discrepancy in funds allocated for scholarships, raising alarms about potential mismanagement or fraud. The news shook Chidima deeply. She had spent months building trust with partners and ensuring financial transparency. Now, that trust seemed at risk, and the credibility of the scholarship program on an international stage hung in the balance. Chidima immediately convened her team. They conducted a thorough audit of all accounts, examining every transaction, transfer, and expenditure related to the Senegalese program. Each detail was meticulously cross-referenced with bank statements, receipts, and program documentation. It became evident that a local coordinator had diverted funds for personal gain, exploiting gaps in oversight. Chidima's heart sank, not only because of the financial loss, but because such actions could jeopardize the futures of young women who had placed their trust in her scholarship. Determined to act decisively, Chidima flew to Senegal. She met with local authorities, the NGO's board, and community leaders to confront the issue directly. Her approach combined firmness, diplomacy, and transparency. She insisted on accountability, ensured that the misappropriated funds would be recovered, and personally reassured scholarship recipients and their families that the program's integrity would remain intact. Her presence and unwavering commitment diffused tension and rebuilt confidence among partners and beneficiaries. The crisis also served as a powerful leadership lesson. Chidima realized that rapid expansion, while vital, carried risks if proper checks and balances were not in place. She returned to Nigeria with a renewed focus on sustainability. She implemented stricter financial oversight, developed standardized reporting procedures, and introduced an independent advisory board to monitor all international activities. These measures ensured that every scholarship, every transfer, and every programmatic decision would be transparent and accountable. During this period, Chidima continued her mentorship and educational work at home. She personally guided several scholarship recipients through critical decisions about their education, career paths, and personal development. Her own experience of betrayal and neglect informed her empathy, allowing her to anticipate challenges her mentees might face. She also encouraged leadership among alumni, training them to assume responsibility for new cohorts, creating a self-sustaining cycle of empowerment. Despite the pressure, Chidima remained committed to her personal growth. She balanced her university studies, writing projects, and creative pursuits with her expanding leadership responsibilities. Journaling and reflection became daily rituals, helping her process stress, maintain clarity, and envision long-term goals. These practices reinforced her resilience and strengthened her capacity to lead under pressure. The Senegal crisis had been resolved, and Chidima had emerged stronger, wiser, and more strategic. She had demonstrated that effective leadership required not only vision and passion, but also vigilance, adaptability, and the ability to confront challenges head-on. The scholarship program was now more secure, more accountable, and better equipped to continue impacting lives across borders. Chidima preparing to scale the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship to multiple countries across West and Central Africa. Following the successful stabilization of the Senegal program, she identified opportunities in Ghana, Côte d'Ivoire, and Cameroon. Each country presented unique cultural, logistical, and educational challenges, and Chidima knew that meticulous planning would be essential. She assembled a multinational advisory board, including local educators, social workers, financial experts, and former scholarship recipients, to ensure programs were culturally appropriate, accountable, and sustainable. As the expansion progressed, Chidima encountered increasing media attention. Journalists from regional outlets highlighted her story, painting her as a young African leader transforming personal adversity into systemic impact. While much of the coverage was positive, there were moments of scrutiny and skepticism. Some questioned whether a 20-something could effectively oversee programs spanning several countries. Others critiqued the pace of expansion, suggesting that scaling too quickly could compromise quality. Chidima learned to manage public perception with poise, using transparency, data, and storytelling to demonstrate results. She held press briefings, published program outcomes, and allowed alumni to share their experiences, ensuring the narrative remained authentic and evidence-based. Meanwhile, Chidima deepened her mentorship role. She introduced a leadership incubator for scholarship recipients, training them to become peer mentors, community advocates, and program coordinators. These workshops focused on professional skills, self-confidence, emotional intelligence, and civic responsibility. The incubator became a cornerstone of the scholarship's impact, creating a multiplier effect. Each graduate not only benefited personally, but also contributed to empowering the next generation. Despite her growing influence, Chidima remained grounded in the lessons of her past. She maintained weekly visits to Jubilee Shelter and other partner organizations, ensuring that her programs addressed real needs and that beneficiaries had a voice in shaping the initiatives. She emphasized listening, empathy, and responsiveness, understanding that trust and relationships were as crucial as funding. Chidima's personal development. She continued her university studies with distinction, balancing academic responsibilities with leadership duties. She cultivated hobbies, writing, painting, and storytelling, that offered creative release and perspective. Obinna remained a key advisor, helping her navigate difficult decisions, mediate conflicts, and maintain emotional well-being. Their partnership had evolved into a professional collaboration rooted in trust, mutual respect, and shared vision. And Chidima had successfully scaled the scholarship to 4 countries, established strong governance and accountability structures, and empowered a growing network of young women to become leaders themselves. Her influence extended beyond financial support, shaping educational opportunities, mentorship networks, and systemic change. Chidima's story now stood as a testament to resilience, vision, and the transformative power of turning personal adversity into widespread social impact. Chidima confronting unexpected resistance from local institutions in some of the countries where the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship had expanded. In Cameroon, a government education office questioned the legitimacy of her program, citing concerns about foreign-led initiatives and regulatory compliance. Local school administrators in certain regions were hesitant to collaborate, worried about disrupting existing systems or provoking political scrutiny. These challenges tested Chidima's diplomatic skills and her ability to navigate complex bureaucracies while maintaining the integrity and mission of her scholarship program. Chidima responded with a strategy rooted in transparency and collaboration. She organized meetings with government officials, community elders, and school leaders, presenting detailed plans, accountability frameworks, and evidence from successful programs in Nigeria and Senegal. She emphasized that the scholarship was designed to complement, not compete with, local educational systems, highlighting measurable outcomes such as improved graduation rates, leadership skills, and community engagement among scholarship recipients. By listening carefully to concerns and adapting her approach to meet local expectations, Chidima gradually earned the trust of key stakeholders. Simultaneously, she faced political challenges. In Ghana, a local political faction attempted to claim credit for the program, viewing it as an opportunity to gain influence among youth populations. Chidima navigated these pressures with strategic neutrality, maintaining her focus on beneficiaries while establishing agreements that protected the scholarship from political exploitation. She made clear that the program's mission was non-partisan and centered on empowering vulnerable young women, ensuring that its credibility and impact would not be undermined. Throughout these challenges, Chidima's leadership grew stronger. She developed structured training sessions for local coordinators, emphasizing ethical practices, financial transparency, and community engagement. She implemented monitoring and evaluation systems to track scholarship outcomes, identify potential risks, and ensure consistent standards across countries. This data-driven approach reassured both partners and donors, while empowering local teams to take ownership of the program's success. Chidima's role as a mentor. She held weekly video conferences with alumni in every participating country, providing guidance on leadership, education, and personal development. These interactions strengthened the sense of a Pan-African community, creating a network of young women who supported one another, shared knowledge, and inspired collective action. Chidima understood that long-term impact depended not just on funding, but on cultivating confidence, skills, and a sense of purpose among the scholarship recipients. On a personal level, Chidima continued to balance her academic studies, creative pursuits, and philanthropic responsibilities. Her experiences with bureaucratic and political challenges deepened her resilience, patience, and strategic thinking. She began writing a reflective journal, documenting her leadership journey, the obstacles she faced, and the lessons learned, intending to use it as a guide for future social innovators. Chidima had successfully navigated bureaucratic resistance, mitigated political challenges, and strengthened governance structures for the scholarship program. Her ability to combine empathy, strategy, and accountability ensured the long-term sustainability of the initiative. The scholarship network now stood as a growing, resilient force, capable of transforming the lives of countless young women across multiple countries. Chidima, confronting internal conflicts within her rapidly expanding scholarship team. As the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship grew across multiple countries, differing opinions, cultural misunderstandings, and competing priorities began to emerge among coordinators, advisors, and alumni mentors. Some team members questioned decisions regarding fund allocation, program expansion timelines, and leadership roles. Others voiced frustrations over communication gaps or felt undervalued in the fast-paced, high-stakes environment. For the first time, Chidima faced the challenge of managing not just external obstacles, but internal dynamics that threatened cohesion and effectiveness. Determined to address these issues, Chidima convened a leadership retreat. She invited coordinators, advisors, and senior alumni mentors to participate in a 3-day workshop focused on communication, conflict resolution, and collaborative decision-making. The retreat included structured discussions, role-playing exercises, and facilitated sessions where participants could express concerns, propose solutions, and clarify responsibilities. Chidima emphasized that the scholarship's mission, the empowerment of young women, was non-negotiable, and that personal disagreements should never overshadow this higher purpose. During the retreat, tensions surfaced openly. Coordinators from Ghana expressed frustration with the slow approval process for scholarships, while team members from Cameroon felt that their efforts were undervalued compared to more visible programs in Senegal and Nigeria. Alumni mentors highlighted inconsistencies in mentorship guidance across regions, which sometimes left scholarship recipients uncertain about expectations. Chidima listened carefully, validating each concern while reinforcing accountability, transparency, and shared ownership. She encouraged a culture of mutual respect, adaptability, and problem-solving, emphasizing that challenges were opportunities to strengthen the program rather than points of division. To prevent future conflicts, Chidima implemented structured governance mechanisms. She established regional advisory committees, each responsible for overseeing operations in their respective countries, reporting directly to a central executive board. Standardized protocols for financial management, scholarship disbursement, reporting, and mentorship were created. Additionally, she introduced a monthly virtual town hall, where all team members could discuss progress, share challenges, and collectively propose improvements. These measures fostered clarity, reduced misunderstandings, and strengthened a sense of shared purpose among the diverse, multinational team. Chidima's personal leadership growth. She learned the importance of patience, empathy, and strategic delegation. She discovered that empowering others to make decisions while maintaining oversight not only improved operational efficiency, but also built trust and commitment among team members. She refined her own communication style, balancing firmness with approachability, vision with practicality, and decisiveness with inclusivity. Amid these challenges, Chidima continued her mentorship work and academic pursuits. She held virtual workshops for scholarship recipients, teaching leadership, negotiation, and resilience. She also began writing articles for regional educational journals, sharing insights about youth empowerment, philanthropy, and the importance of equitable access to education. Her reputation as a thoughtful, capable, and visionary leader continued to grow, attracting partnerships, sponsorships, and opportunities to influence policy discussions related to youth and education. Internal conflicts had been largely resolved. Chidima had strengthened governance structures, clarified roles and responsibilities, and fostered a culture of collaboration and accountability. The scholarship program emerged more resilient, better organized, and more cohesive than ever. Chidima herself had matured as a leader, capable of navigating complex interpersonal dynamics while keeping the mission of empowerment and opportunity at the forefront. In Chidima turning her attention to rural and underserved regions, where access to education remained severely limited. While her scholarship programs in urban centers had achieved remarkable success, she knew that many young women in remote areas faced barriers beyond financial constraints. Poor infrastructure, underqualified teachers, cultural resistance, and limited exposure to career opportunities. Chidima understood that to fulfill the vision of the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship, she needed to create programs that addressed these systemic challenges, not just individual needs. She began by conducting field visits to remote villages across Nigeria, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire. Traveling long, bumpy roads and navigating areas with little modern infrastructure, she witnessed firsthand the daily struggles of students, classrooms without desks, textbooks that were decades old, and teachers overwhelmed by high student-to-teacher ratios. These experiences deepened her resolve. She returned to her team with detailed reports, photographs, and narratives, illustrating the urgent need for tailored interventions in these regions. Chidima's strategy combined resource provision, mentorship, and community engagement. She established mobile learning centers equipped with modern educational materials, internet access, and trained tutors. Local leaders were involved from the outset, ensuring that programs respected cultural norms while encouraging progressive change. Scholarships were paired with mentorship and skill-building workshops, so students not only received financial support, but also gained confidence, leadership abilities, and exposure to career paths previously inaccessible to them. Implementing these programs posed logistical challenges. Roads were impassable during rainy seasons, communication networks were unreliable, and local coordinators often lacked experience in program management. Chidima addressed these obstacles by training regional facilitators, establishing contingency plans, and leveraging technology to monitor progress remotely. She also prioritized sustainability, empowering communities to eventually manage and expand the programs independently. Chidima met young women who had almost abandoned their education due to economic and social pressures. She witnessed students staying late after school to complete assignments in candlelight, yet smiling with determination and hope. One particularly memorable encounter was with Amina, a 17-year-old from a remote village in northern Nigeria, whose dream was to become a civil engineer. With Chidima's support, Amina gained access to tutoring, materials, and a scholarship to attend a reputable secondary school. Her story embodied the transformative power of education when barriers were removed and opportunities created. Through these initiatives, Chidima also reinforced a culture of mentorship. Alumni from urban scholarship programs were encouraged to serve as role models for students in rural areas, sharing experiences, guidance, and encouragement. This exchange created a network of solidarity and inspiration. bridging the gap between different socio-economic realities while strengthening the scholarship's long-term impact. Chidimma had successfully implemented programs that extended beyond financial support, creating holistic, sustainable educational ecosystems in underserved regions. The scholarship network now spanned urban centers, suburban areas, and remote villages, demonstrating a comprehensive approach to empowerment. Chidimma's vision had evolved from rescuing individual young women to transforming communities, bridging gaps, and fostering systemic change. Chidimma receiving international recognition for her transformative work with the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship. Invitations arrived from global NGOs, foundations, and educational conferences, all eager to understand how a young African leader had built a multi-country scholarship program that not only provided financial support, but also fostered mentorship, leadership, and community engagement. These invitations brought new opportunities and new challenges. Chidimma attended a major education summit in Accra, Ghana, where she presented the scholarship's impact to an audience of philanthropists, policymakers, and international development experts. She shared data on graduation rates, mentorship outcomes, and community initiatives, emphasizing that education alone was not enough. Holistic support and empowerment were crucial for sustainable change. Her presentation received standing ovations, and several organizations expressed interest in partnerships to replicate or fund the program in additional African countries. However, international attention also introduced complexities. Global NGOs had their own agendas, reporting requirements, and bureaucracies. Some proposed imposing their own frameworks or strategies that did not align fully with Chidimma Achia's culturally sensitive, locally driven approach. She faced pressure to compromise her vision for expediency or funding. Chidimma navigated these discussions with diplomacy and firmness, insisting that the scholarship's guiding principle, the empowerment of young women while respecting local contexts, remain non-negotiable. Simultaneously, she encountered legal and logistical challenges in cross-border program expansion. Compliance with multiple national education regulations, tax laws, and NGO registration requirements demanded careful planning and expert legal guidance. Chidimma worked closely with a network of lawyers, accountants, and local coordinators to ensure that every country's program adhered to local laws while maintaining consistent standards of accountability, transparency, and ethics. The personal growth of Chidimma, balancing international travel, university studies, and the operational demands of her scholarship, required discipline, strategic delegation, and self-care. She learned to prioritize tasks, delegate effectively to trusted regional coordinators, and maintain focus on long-term objectives. She also cultivated emotional resilience, understanding that leadership at this scale came with scrutiny, criticism, and high stakes. Through these experiences, Chidimma built an international advisory board composed of educational experts, youth advocates, and former scholarship recipients. The board provided guidance on scaling strategies, monitoring and evaluation frameworks, and fundraising initiatives. Alumni from the scholarship program were also engaged as global ambassadors, sharing their stories and inspiring other young women across the continent. Chidimma had successfully positioned the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship for continental impact. She had established international partnerships without compromising her values, strengthened governance and operational frameworks, and empowered a growing network of young women leaders. The program now had the potential to reach thousands more across Africa, creating systemic change while honoring the vision that had started with one determined young woman who refused to let her past define her future. Chidimma, facing intense media scrutiny as her success began attracting widespread public attention, national and international news outlets featured her story. The young African woman who had transformed the lives of countless young women through the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship. While this coverage brought visibility and increased support, it also introduced new challenges. Journalists sought sensational details, competitors in the philanthropic space criticized her approach, and some questioned her capacity to manage such a large, cross-continental initiative at a young age. Chidimma responded with poise and transparency. She granted interviews that emphasized the scholarship's mission, its measurable impact, and the importance of community-led solutions. She refused to be drawn into petty rivalries or criticism, instead highlighting stories of the young women whose lives were transformed. Through strategic communication, she framed the narrative around empowerment, accountability, and long-term impact, reinforcing the scholarship's credibility and inspiring confidence among donors, partners, and stakeholders. Simultaneously, Chidimma encountered philanthropic rivalries. Some established foundations felt threatened by the scholarship's rapid growth and innovative model. They attempted to compete for the same donors or to discredit her methods publicly. Chidimma navigated these tensions with a combination of diplomacy, collaboration, and assertiveness. She focused on building alliances rather than engaging in conflict, emphasizing partnerships that amplified impact rather than personal ego. She also worked with her advisory board to develop formal agreements and protocols that protected the scholarship's mission and assets from external interference. Chidimma's focus on sustainability. She recognized that for the scholarship to endure beyond her leadership, it needed robust governance structures, reliable funding streams, and a cadre of trained future leaders. She established an endowment fund, diversifying revenue through corporate partnerships, individual donations, and grant programs. She also created a leadership pipeline within the program, training alumni and regional coordinators to assume management roles over time. This approach ensured that the scholarship could continue impacting generations of young women, independent of Chidimma's direct involvement. At the same time, she continued her personal growth and education. She refined her leadership style, learning to balance strategic decision-making with empathy, risk-taking with caution, and long-term vision with day-to-day operations. She mentored alumni who were stepping into leadership positions themselves, ensuring that the program's culture of empowerment and accountability was embedded in every level of the organization. Chidimma, reflecting on the journey from a single young woman overcoming personal adversity to a continental leader shaping the futures of thousands. She recognized that challenges, media scrutiny, rivalries, operational complexities were inevitable at this scale, but her unwavering focus on mission, ethical leadership, and community collaboration allowed her to navigate them successfully. The Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship was no longer just a program. It had become a movement, a symbol of resilience, opportunity, and the transformative power of belief in young women's potential. Chidimma, recognizing that despite the scholarship's success, a major barrier remained: access to technology and digital education for students in rural and underserved regions. Many of the young women she supported lacked computers, internet connectivity, or digital literacy, limiting their ability to access online learning, apply for universities, or participate in global conversations. Chidimma knew that to truly empower these students, she needed to integrate technology into every aspect of the scholarship. She began by establishing a digital access initiative within the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship. The program aimed to provide laptops, tablets, and solar-powered internet solutions to students in remote areas. It also included digital literacy training, coding workshops, and online mentorship programs. Chidimma partnered with tech companies, NGOs, and universities to provide software licenses, learning platforms, and virtual courses tailored to the students' educational levels and aspirations. Implementing the initiative was challenging. Infrastructure limitations in rural regions meant that some areas had no electricity or reliable internet. Chidimma collaborated with engineers and local communities to install solar panels, establish community tech hubs, and ensure maintenance and sustainability. She also trained local coordinators to teach students how to use technology effectively and safely, fostering both skills and confidence. Girls who had previously been limited to classroom instruction in under-resourced schools were now participating in virtual workshops with professionals across Africa and beyond. They were learning coding, entrepreneurship, and digital marketing skills, and some began creating small businesses and online projects that addressed local community issues. Technology enabled them to access scholarship applications, mentorship sessions, and global networks, bridging the gap between ambition and opportunity. Chidimma also integrated monitoring and evaluation tools into the digital framework. She developed online dashboards to track students' progress, engagement, and outcomes, providing real-time data to improve program effectiveness. Mentors and coordinators could give feedback, adjust lesson plans, and intervene when students faced obstacles, ensuring that the support was both timely and personalized. Through this initiative, Chidimma discovered additional benefits. Alumni from urban and rural programs could now connect digitally, forming a continental network of empowered young women supporting one another. Students shared knowledge, collaborated on projects, and celebrated achievements across borders, strengthening a culture of mentorship and community. The scholarship's impact became not just educational, but also social, building resilience, collaboration, and leadership skills in unprecedented ways. Chidimma had successfully created a technological infrastructure that enhanced learning, mentorship, and empowerment for students across the continent. The Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship had evolved into a digitally connected ecosystem, bridging gaps between urban and rural realities, creating opportunities where none had existed, and fostering a generation of young women capable of leveraging technology for personal community and societal growth. Chidimma, realizing that while education and financial support were critical, the emotional and psychological well-being of her scholarship recipients had often been overlooked. Many of the young women she supported had endured abuse, neglect, poverty, and systemic inequality. Without proper mental health support, these experiences threatened to undermine their educational and personal growth. Chidimma decided that addressing trauma and fostering holistic well-being would become a core pillar of the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship. She began by assembling a team of psychologists, counselors, and social workers familiar with the unique challenges faced by young African women in both urban and rural contexts. The team developed workshops and counseling programs that addressed trauma, self-esteem, conflict resolution, and emotional resilience. Each student was offered one-on-one counseling sessions, as well as group workshops that fostered peer support and shared learning. Chidimma also recognized that cultural stigma often prevented young women from seeking mental health support. To overcome this, she launched a community engagement campaign in each program region, working with parents, local leaders, and mentors to normalize discussions about mental health. She emphasized that mental strength was as crucial as academic achievement, and that seeking help was a sign of courage, not weakness. The program incorporated practical elements as well. Meditation sessions, stress management workshops, and creative arts therapy allowed students to process their experiences in healthy ways. Students were encouraged to write, paint, or perform as a means of self-expression. Many participants, including alumni, reported feeling a renewed sense of self-worth, emotional stability, and motivation to pursue their goals. One student, Chiamaka, had been living in a rural village after escaping an abusive household. She had initially struggled to trust anyone, even the scholarship staff. Through counseling, mentorship, and peer support, Chiamaka gradually overcame fear and self-doubt, ultimately winning a regional leadership award for her community service initiative. Her story became emblematic of the scholarship's holistic approach. Education alone was not enough. Healing and empowerment were inseparable. Chidimma ensured that mental health support was embedded at every stage of the program. Regular check-ins, progress assessments, and mentorship sessions allowed counselors to intervene when a student faced challenges. Alumni were trained as peer counselors, creating a sustainable support network and fostering leadership and empathy among those who had experienced similar struggles. The Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship had grown into a comprehensive program addressing the intellectual, emotional, and social development of its participants. Chidimma's vision had expanded beyond financial aid and academic mentorship to include trauma-informed care, mental health support, and holistic empowerment. Students were not only learning, they were healing, growing, and developing the resilience and confidence to transform their lives and communities. Chidimma, recognizing that to create lasting systemic change, the scholarship could no longer operate solely as a private initiative. While the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship had already transformed thousands of individual lives, broader policy reforms were necessary to improve access to education, gender equality, and youth empowerment on a national scale. She decided to engage with governmental agencies, policymakers, and international organizations to influence education policy and expand the impact of her programs. Chidinma started by meeting with the Ministry of Education in Nigeria, presenting detailed reports on the scholarship's outcomes, including graduation rates, mentorship participation, and community development projects initiated by scholarship recipients. She demonstrated how the program's approach, combining financial support, mentorship, technology, and mental health care, could serve as a scalable model for national youth initiatives. Government officials were impressed by the evidence-based results and the tangible societal benefits, including increased female enrollment in STEM fields and higher secondary school retention rates. Simultaneously, Chidinma met with legislators, advocating for policies that supported rural education, digital access, and gender equality. She emphasized that systemic barriers, including infrastructure deficits, cultural restrictions, and lack of educational resources, limited the potential of millions of young women. By sharing real stories of scholarship recipients, Chidinma humanized the data and illustrated the urgent need for policy reform. Her negotiations with international organizations such as UNESCO, UNICEF, and the African Union, these entities offered technical assistance, funding, and frameworks for scaling programs across multiple African countries. Chidinma carefully balanced external support with her commitment to community-led solutions, ensuring that local contexts and cultural sensitivities remained central to program design. She insisted on co-creation with local leaders, teachers, and students themselves, rather than imposing externally designed interventions. Chidinma faced bureaucratic and political challenges along the way. Corruption, slow approval processes, and competing priorities often delayed initiatives. She responded with patience, persistence, and transparency, leveraging data, evidence, and strategic alliances to overcome obstacles. Her reputation as a principled, results-driven leader helped her navigate these complex landscapes while maintaining credibility with both donors and government partners. Through these efforts, she succeeded in securing formal partnerships with multiple state governments to integrate scholarship principles into public education programs. Pilot projects included digital learning hubs in rural schools, mentorship networks linking alumni to current students, and teacher training programs emphasizing student-centered pedagogy and trauma-informed care. These initiatives significantly extended the scholarship's reach, benefiting tens of thousands of young women who would otherwise lack access to quality education and support systems. Chidinma had not only transformed individual lives, but had begun to influence national education systems, demonstrating how private initiative, when paired with policy advocacy and governmental partnership, could create sustainable, wide-reaching change. The Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship had become a movement, inspiring systemic reform and elevating the prospects of countless young women across Africa. Chidinma turning her focus to continental expansion. Recognizing that young women across Africa faced similar barriers: poverty, gender inequality, lack of access to quality education, and limited mentorship, she envisioned a Pan-African network of empowerment. The goal was to scale the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship beyond Nigeria, creating a unified platform that would provide educational opportunities, mentorship, and holistic support to thousands more young women across the continent. Chidinma began by mapping regions with the greatest need, consulting with local NGOs, education authorities, and community leaders to understand specific challenges. Each country had unique socio-cultural, political, and economic contexts, requiring tailored approaches. She organized regional summits, bringing together educators, policymakers, alumni, and prospective partners to co-design programs that were culturally relevant, sustainable, and scalable. To facilitate cross-border collaboration, Chidinma launched the African Empowerment Hub, a digital platform connecting scholarship recipients, alumni, mentors, and coordinators from all participating countries. The hub allowed students to access virtual workshops, leadership training, peer-to-peer mentorship, and project collaboration. Alumni shared success stories, providing inspiration and practical guidance, while coordinators monitored progress and shared best practices across the network. The personal journey of students adapting to this new continental network. One recipient from rural Kenya, Amina, had never traveled outside her village. Through the scholarship, she gained access to online courses, mentorship, and cross-country exchange programs. By participating in virtual leadership forums, Amina developed skills in public speaking, entrepreneurship, and advocacy, eventually leading a community project that provided clean water to her village, demonstrating the ripple effect of empowerment. Chidimma also established strategic partnerships with multinational corporations, African development banks, and international foundations to fund expansion, provide technology, resources, and ensure sustainability. She negotiated agreements that protected local ownership, ensuring that communities retained agency in program implementation. The scholarships now included provisions for mental health support, digital literacy, leadership development, and community engagement, creating a comprehensive model for youth empowerment. Challenges emerged as she navigated legal, logistical, and political hurdles across borders. Each country had distinct regulatory environments for NGOs and education initiatives. Chidimma worked with legal teams to ensure compliance while protecting students' interests and the scholarship's integrity. She also faced the challenge of maintaining quality and consistency while scaling rapidly, implementing robust monitoring and evaluation systems to track impact and refine programs in real time. Chidimma had successfully established the foundation for a continental network of empowerment, connecting thousands of young women across Africa, creating mentorship and learning communities, and demonstrating a scalable, holistic model of educational and personal development. The Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship had evolved into a continental movement, bridging gaps in opportunity and fostering leadership, resilience, and community impact across national borders. Chidimma confronting the internal complexities of managing a rapidly expanding scholarship organization. As the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship grew from a national program to a Pan-African network, she realized that operational challenges, leadership gaps, and organizational sustainability could threaten its long-term impact if left unaddressed. Chidimma knew that without a strong internal structure, the movement she had built could falter despite its visionary goals. She began by conducting a thorough organizational audit, analyzing staffing, workflows, financial systems, and program management structures. Gaps were identified. Some regions lacked trained coordinators, communication between country offices was inconsistent, and data management systems were underdeveloped. Chidimma understood that her personal involvement alone could no longer sustain the program. Leadership development and delegation were essential. To address this, she launched a leadership development initiative within the organization. Promising alumni were identified and trained to assume management roles, gaining skills in administration, strategic planning, fundraising, and mentorship. By empowering internal leaders, Chidimma ensured continuity and cultivated a culture of accountability and excellence. She also implemented clear reporting systems, standardized procedures, and operational protocols, creating consistency across countries while allowing local flexibility. Financial oversight became another key focus. Chidimma established an internal auditing department and partnered with external financial advisors to ensure transparency and accountability, preventing mismanagement of funds. She also created contingency funds and endowments to secure the scholarship's long-term sustainability, mitigating risks from economic fluctuations or donor unpredictability. The challenges of maintaining organizational culture during rapid growth. Chidimma prioritized regular communication with staff and regional coordinators, fostering a shared sense of mission, values, and ethical standards. She hosted virtual town halls, leadership retreats, and mentoring circles to ensure alignment, collaboration, and morale. She emphasized that every team member, from coordinators to counselors, was integral to the scholarship's success and the lives it transformed. Succession planning became a strategic priority. Chidimma knew that one day she would need capable leaders to continue her vision. She developed a multi-tiered succession plan, identifying potential leaders within each country office, training them in governance, finance, program design, and conflict resolution. By creating a leadership pipeline, she ensured the scholarship would remain resilient, adaptable, and mission-focused long after her direct involvement. Finally, Chidima addressed innovation within the organization. She encouraged staff to experiment with new learning methods, digital tools, and community engagement strategies, creating a culture of continuous improvement. Regular impact assessments informed program refinement, ensuring that the scholarship remained relevant, effective, and aligned with evolving needs of young women across Africa. Chidima had transformed the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship from a visionary idea into a well-structured, scalable, and sustainable organization. Operational challenges were being met with strategic solutions, leadership pipelines were in place, and the scholarship's foundation was secure for long-term impact. Chidima had learned that building a movement required not only vision and passion, but also meticulous planning, accountability, and investment in people. Chidima, recognizing that the true power of the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship extended far beyond the students currently enrolled. Alumni represented a living legacy of the program's impact. They had overcome immense challenges, gained education and skills, and now possessed the capacity to inspire and mentor the next generation. Chidima envisioned a comprehensive alumni engagement strategy that would turn beneficiaries into active contributors, creating a self-sustaining cycle of empowerment. She established the Alumni Leadership Council, a body composed of scholarship graduates from different countries and regions. The council's mission was to provide mentorship, support peer networks, organize local community projects, and advocate for young women in their respective communities. Council members were given training in leadership, mentorship skills, project management, and advocacy, ensuring they were equipped to serve effectively. Chidima also launched the Mentorship Expansion Program. Each current scholarship recipient was paired with one or more alumni mentors who guided them academically, professionally, and personally. This one-on-one mentorship helped students navigate challenges, develop career paths, and build confidence. Alumni mentors shared their lived experiences, providing practical strategies for overcoming adversity while instilling hope and ambition. Several success stories. One alumna from Ghana, Abena, had grown up in an underprivileged neighborhood with limited access to education. After benefiting from the scholarship, she became a community organizer and mentor to 15 local girls, helping them access digital learning, vocational training, and scholarship opportunities. Another alumna, Fatima from Senegal, used her mentorship to create a micro-enterprise cooperative, teaching young women entrepreneurship skills while generating income to fund education projects. Chidima also recognized the importance of building a continental culture of giving back. Alumni were encouraged not only to mentor, but also to invest in local communities, advocate for policy changes, and establish small initiatives to address social inequalities. This approach ensured that empowerment went beyond individual success to collective impact, creating a ripple effect of leadership and opportunity across Africa. To maintain connections, Chidima implemented an annual alumni summit, where graduates, current students, and staff gathered to share experiences, collaborate on projects, and celebrate achievements. The summit featured workshops on entrepreneurship, leadership, mental health, and digital skills, as well as forums for sharing best practices across countries. These gatherings reinforced the sense of community, purpose, and shared mission among participants. Chidima had successfully transformed alumni from beneficiaries into agents of change. The scholarship's impact was no longer limited to a single generation of young women, but had grown into a self-perpetuating network of leaders, mentors, and innovators. This network strengthened communities, fostered resilience, and cultivated a culture of giving back, ensuring that the empowerment Chidima had initiated would continue long into the future. Chidima, realizing that education and mentorship alone were not enough to break cycles of poverty for the young women she supported. She envisioned creating sustainable economic opportunities that would empower scholarship recipients and alumni to generate income, gain practical experience, and contribute meaningfully to their communities. This led to the launch of the Social Entrepreneurship and Community Development Initiative under the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship. The program encouraged students and alumni to develop small-scale enterprises addressing local community needs, combining social impact with economic sustainability. Chidima provided seed funding, mentorship, and business training, covering areas like financial literacy, marketing, operations, and ethical leadership. Local experts and alumni with entrepreneurial experience offered hands-on guidance, ensuring that projects were feasible, culturally relevant, and scalable. Several success stories. In Uganda, an alumna named Lillian established a solar-powered water distribution project, supplying clean water to remote villages while creating employment for local women. In Kenya, a group of alumni opened a digital literacy center that trained girls and young women in coding, graphic design, and online entrepreneurship. In Nigeria, another group of recipients launched a sustainable agriculture initiative, teaching eco-friendly farming practices and establishing markets for produce in urban centers. Chidima also prioritized integrating these projects with the scholarship's broader mentorship and alumni networks. Each venture included a mentorship component, pairing experienced alumni with younger participants to foster intergenerational learning and guidance. This approach allowed students to gain practical experience while contributing to the empowerment of others, creating a virtuous cycle of skill building and impact. In addition to local projects, Chidima encouraged collaboration across borders. Alumni in different countries shared strategies, coordinated joint ventures, and leveraged regional resources. A solar energy project in Kenya, for example, received technical input from Nigerian alumni who had studied engineering and sustainable energy solutions. This cross-border collaboration enhanced innovation and fostered a sense of Pan-African solidarity and shared purpose. The scholarship had evolved into a comprehensive empowerment ecosystem: education, mentorship, mental health support, and now social entrepreneurship, combined to equip young women with the skills, confidence, and resources needed to transform their lives and communities. The ripple effect of these initiatives extended far beyond individual beneficiaries, fostering resilient local economies, leadership development, and sustainable community impact across Africa. Chidima confronting the persistent challenge of accessibility. Many young women, particularly in rural or underserved regions, faced barriers to quality education due to limited schools, scarce resources, and geographical isolation. To overcome this, she spearheaded the Digital Learning Expansion Project, leveraging technology to deliver education, mentorship, and skills training directly to students, regardless of location. Chidima partnered with tech companies, NGOs, and government agencies to develop a robust digital platform that included virtual classrooms, interactive tutorials, career guidance modules, and mentorship forums. Each student received a tablet or laptop preloaded with learning materials, educational apps, and offline content for areas with limited internet access. Solar-powered charging stations were established in rural communities, ensuring reliable access to digital learning resources. The platform also featured a centralized mentorship portal connecting students with alumni, teachers, and professional mentors. Live video sessions, discussion forums, and project collaboration tools enabled interactive engagement and real-time feedback. Chidima emphasized personalized learning, allowing students to progress at their own pace while accessing support for both academic and emotional development. The experiences of scholarship recipients in remote areas. In a small village in Burkina Faso, Aissatou had struggled to continue school after her local secondary school closed due to funding cuts. Through the digital learning platform, she could attend virtual lessons, participate in group projects, and connect with mentors across Africa. Within months, Aissatou excelled in STEM subjects, applied for higher education programs, and began leading local youth initiatives. Chidima also integrated digital literacy and coding programs, preparing young women for the modern workforce. She partnered with tech hubs and coding academies in cities across Africa, enabling students to participate in competitions, internships, and collaborative projects. Alumni mentors guided them through entrepreneurial initiatives, allowing them to launch digital startups, freelance projects, and social enterprises that addressed local challenges. To ensure equitable access, Chidima implemented monitoring and evaluation systems, tracking student engagement, academic progress, and the effectiveness of mentorship interventions. Feedback loops allowed her team to adapt content, address gaps, and improve digital learning outcomes continuously. Local coordinators provided technical support, encouraged participation, and organized community workshops to strengthen digital skills and promote a culture of continuous learning. The scholarship's digital infrastructure had dramatically reduced educational disparities, enabling students in remote and underserved communities to access high-quality learning and mentorship. The initiative not only empowered individual scholarship recipients but also fostered a network of digitally literate, skilled young women ready to lead, innovate, and contribute to their communities and beyond. Chidima turning her attention to the often overlooked dimension of personal development, mental and emotional well-being. While the scholarship provided education, mentorship, and economic opportunities, she realized that the young women she supported had endured profound trauma, stress, and uncertainty. Without addressing mental health, even the most promising students risked burnout, self-doubt, or setbacks that could derail their growth. To tackle this, Chidima launched the Mental Wellness and Resilience Program, a comprehensive initiative designed to provide emotional support, counseling, life skills training, and resilience-building strategies. The program integrated professional counseling services, peer support groups, workshops on coping mechanisms, stress management, and mindfulness practices. The goal was to equip students not only to succeed academically and professionally, but also to thrive emotionally and psychologically. The experiences of several scholarship recipients who had faced significant challenges. In Zambia, a student named Thandiwe had struggled with anxiety and self-esteem issues stemming from years of family neglect and community stigma. Through one-on-one counseling sessions, peer support circles, and guided resilience workshops, Thandiwe learned coping strategies, gained confidence, and developed leadership skills. She eventually initiated a youth mental health awareness campaign in her community, extending the benefits of the program to others. Chidima emphasized training local coordinators and alumni mentors to recognize signs of emotional distress, provide initial support, and refer students to professional services when needed. This approach created an accessible, culturally sensitive, and community-driven support network. By involving alumni who had faced similar challenges, students found relatable role models and practical guidance for overcoming adversity. The program also included resilience workshops, focusing on goal setting, time management, conflict resolution, and problem solving. Students learned to navigate setbacks, reframe failures as learning opportunities, and build self-efficacy. Through storytelling sessions, students shared personal experiences, celebrating achievements and acknowledging struggles, fostering a sense of belonging, empathy, and mutual encouragement. Additionally, Chidima recognized the importance of integrating mental health awareness into the scholarship's broader programs. She collaborated with schools, universities, and local NGOs to ensure that emotional well-being was not treated as a separate initiative, but embedded in education, mentorship, and community development activities. This holistic approach strengthened both individual resilience and collective empowerment. The scholarship had evolved into a fully integrated ecosystem, addressing not only academic and economic needs, but also mental, emotional, and social development. Students became better equipped to navigate challenges, seize opportunities, and contribute positively to their communities. The initiative reinforced Chidima's vision of holistic empowerment, ensuring that every young woman supported by the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship could thrive in body, mind, and spirit. Chidima, realizing that her impact could be amplified if young women not only received education and support, but also became leaders and advocates in their own communities. She launched the Leadership and Advocacy Program within the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship, designed to cultivate civic engagement, policy understanding, and public speaking skills. The goal was to empower scholarship recipients and alumni to influence decisions affecting youth, women, and marginalized groups. Workshops focused on leadership principles, ethics, negotiation, community organizing, and public speaking. Students practiced advocacy through community projects, local campaigns, and engagement with government officials. Chidima emphasized that leadership was not about authority, but about responsibility, empathy, and the courage to effect change. She encouraged participants to identify pressing issues in their communities, like gender-based violence, access to education, or healthcare gaps, and design actionable solutions. the journey of an alumna, Amina, from Sierra Leone, who had faced early childhood trauma and systemic barriers. Through the leadership program, she initiated a community campaign advocating for girls' education, presenting at town hall meetings and collaborating with local schools and NGOs. Her work directly influenced local policy, securing funding for school supplies and mentorship programs for vulnerable girls. Chidimma also created a continental advocacy network, connecting alumni and students across Africa to share strategies, support each other's initiatives, and collectively address broader social issues. Monthly virtual conferences allowed participants to exchange ideas, present impact reports, and coordinate cross-border campaigns. This reinforced a sense of Pan-African solidarity, collective purpose, and shared responsibility for societal change. Mentorship remained central to leadership development. Alumni leaders guided new scholarship recipients, modeling advocacy in action, and encouraging students to take initiative, engage with community stakeholders, and pursue leadership roles confidently. Chidimma personally mentored the first cohort of emerging leaders, sharing her experiences navigating organizational challenges, societal barriers, and personal growth. The scholarship had evolved into a platform for nurturing not only academic and professional excellence, but also civic responsibility, leadership, and advocacy. Students and alumni were transforming into empowered leaders capable of influencing policy, driving community initiatives, and shaping a brighter future for women and youth across Africa. Chidimma, realizing that true transformation required collaboration beyond national borders. While the scholarship had already touched lives in multiple African countries, she saw the potential for creating a Pan-African network that connected students, alumni, NGOs, and educational institutions across the continent. The vision was to establish a continental movement of empowered young women driving social change, economic development, and educational equity. She initiated the Pan-African Partnership Program, bringing together leaders from education, business, technology, and civil society to collaborate on shared initiatives. The program focused on joint projects, knowledge sharing, and resource mobilization. Alumni and students were encouraged to form cross-border teams, tackling issues like sustainable agriculture, clean energy, digital literacy, and girls' education in multiple countries simultaneously. In project led by scholarship alumni in Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya. A mobile health initiative providing reproductive health education, maternal care resources, and mentorship to rural communities. The program used mobile technology, community workshops, and local ambassadors to reach hundreds of girls who previously had limited access to healthcare information. The collaboration demonstrated how coordinated efforts could scale impact exponentially. Chidimma also organized the first Pan-African Youth Summit, bringing together scholarship recipients, alumni, mentors, and partners from across Africa. The summit included workshops, hackathons, and leadership forums where young women presented solutions to pressing challenges in their communities. The event strengthened networks, fostered innovation, and showcased the scholarship program as a model of continental collaboration. Through these partnerships, Chidimma secured funding for cross-border mentorship programs, entrepreneurial initiatives, and exchange opportunities. Students traveled to other countries to gain exposure, learn new skills, and implement projects in collaboration with local communities. These experiences not only enhanced practical knowledge, but also fostered cultural understanding, adaptability, and a sense of global citizenship among participants. The scholarship had grown from a national initiative into a continental movement. The combination of leadership development, mentorship, social entrepreneurship, and cross-border collaboration ensured that young women were not only receiving opportunities, but actively creating opportunities for others. Chidimma's vision of a self-sustaining Pan-African ecosystem of empowered women was becoming a reality, with a ripple effect that extended far beyond the scholarship recipients themselves. Chidimma stepping into the spotlight as the Nwachukwu Second Chance Scholarship gained recognition across Africa and internationally. Media outlets began profiling her work, highlighting the transformative impact on thousands of young women and their communities. While the attention validated her vision and inspired others, it also introduced new challenges, managing public expectations, scrutiny, and the responsibilities of becoming a prominent social advocate. Chidima was invited to conferences, award ceremonies, and panel discussions. She received recognition from regional and international organizations for her contributions to education, women's empowerment, and social entrepreneurship. Among the accolades were the African Women of Influence Award, the Global Education Leadership Medal, and recognition from the African Union for Youth Empowerment. Each honor came with public attention, interviews, and the implicit responsibility to continue expanding her impact. The delicate balance Chidima maintained between visibility and humility. She used media appearances strategically, amplifying the voices of scholarship recipients and alumni rather than centering herself. Stories of students overcoming adversity, launching enterprises, or creating social initiatives became the focus. Chidima emphasized that the recognition belonged to the community she served and the young women whose lives were transformed. With fame came the challenge of scrutiny. Critics questioned the sustainability of the program, the distribution of resources, and the accountability mechanisms. Chidima responded with transparency, sharing financial reports, project outcomes, and impact assessments publicly. She also encouraged alumni to participate in oversight and decision-making, ensuring that the scholarship program remained community-driven and accountable. Chidima's personal growth. Navigating public attention taught her resilience, diplomacy, and strategic communication. She became a mentor not only to scholarship recipients, but also to other social entrepreneurs and young leaders seeking to scale impact in their communities. By sharing her journey, the obstacles, mistakes, and lessons learned, she inspired a generation of changemakers to pursue meaningful work with integrity and vision. Chidima had successfully positioned the scholarship as a reputable, respected initiative with continental and international influence. The program's visibility attracted more partners, funding, and opportunities, ensuring sustainability and growth. More importantly, it reinforced the principle that empowerment, education, and opportunity could create a transformative ripple effect across communities, nations, and the continent. Chidima reflecting on the personal journey that had run parallel to her professional accomplishments. While her scholarship program had grown into a continental movement, she realized that her own growth, relationships, and sense of belonging needed attention. Central to this was her relationship with Malcolm, her grandfather, whose late discovery of her life had shaped both their lives profoundly. The months following her reunion had been an exercise in trust, patience, and understanding. Chidima had learned to navigate the complex emotions of grief, anger, and love. She had resented the years of abandonment, yet she recognized that Malcolm's absence had been influenced by grief and manipulation. Malcolm, for his part, had sought to atone for lost time, balancing remorse with a determination to support her future. Their shared moments of reconciliation and bonding. They spent evenings reviewing family history, looking at photographs of Chidima's mother, and hearing stories about her life before tragedy struck. Malcolm shared lessons from his business career, his failures, and his values, while Chidima shared her vision, ambitions, and experiences of resilience. This exchange created a bridge between their worlds, blending generational wisdom with youthful determination. Family reconciliation extended beyond just the two of them. Chidima encouraged Malcolm to reconnect with extended relatives who had also been unaware of her existence. She organized family gatherings, fostering bonds that had been broken by secrecy and lies. Slowly, the sense of belonging, heritage, and identity that she had been denied for 18 years began to grow. These reunions strengthened her understanding of roots, legacy, and responsibility. Chidima also deepened her relationship with Malcolm on a day-to-day level. She accompanied him to business meetings, charity events, and mentorship programs, not merely as his granddaughter, but as a partner in shaping impactful initiatives. Together, they strategized about the scholarship's growth, creating new mentorship networks and designing programs that combined financial support, education, and leadership development. Chidima had not only cemented her position as a leader and changemaker, but had also forged a meaningful familial bond with Malcolm. The fusion of personal healing and professional purpose demonstrated that true empowerment required both emotional reconciliation and societal impact. It underscored the idea that family, mentorship, and opportunity together could heal wounds, create purpose, and shape a legacy of resilience and service. Chidima turning her attention to sustainability and legacy building. While the scholarship had already transformed thousands of lives, she knew that lasting impact required preparing the next generation of leaders to continue the work, ensuring the programs would thrive even beyond her active involvement. Chidima initiated the Next Generation Leadership Program, designed to identify promising alumni and equip them with the skills, mentorship, and resources needed to run future initiatives independently. Participants received training in program management, fundraising, strategic planning, and community engagement. They learned not only to lead projects, but also to create structures that could endure across generations, cultivating a self-sustaining ecosystem of empowered women. A cohort of alumni in Uganda who, inspired by Chidima, established local mentorship hubs for young girls in rural areas. They created micro-scholarship programs, skill-building workshops, and peer-led support networks. By taking ownership of these initiatives, the alumni transformed their communities, proving that the ripple effect of empowerment could extend far beyond the initial program. Chidima also worked on formalizing institutional partnerships with universities, NGOs, and governments across Africa. These partnerships provided a framework for scaling the scholarship, expanding its reach, and integrating best practices from multiple sectors. She emphasized the importance of monitoring and evaluation, ensuring that impact metrics, financial accountability, and transparency were built into every initiative. Chidima's focus on intergenerational mentorship. Older alumni served as role models, guiding younger students through challenges related to education, career choices, personal development, and community engagement. This mentorship reinforced the values of service, resilience, and leadership, creating a culture of continuity and empowerment. Additionally, Chidima began documenting the journey of the scholarship and its recipients through written records, digital archives, and multimedia storytelling. This preserved the stories of struggle, triumph, and transformation for future generations, allowing them to learn from the experiences and wisdom of those who had paved the way. The foundation for a lasting legacy had been firmly established. The scholarship was no longer just a program, it had become a movement, a living testament to the power of opportunity, mentorship, and collective action. Chidima had ensured that the next generation of leaders would be ready to take up the mantle, expanding the reach and impact of the work she had started, and guaranteeing that no girl like her past self would be left behind. Chidima reflecting deeply on the remarkable journey she had undertaken, from a young girl, abandoned and denied her birthright, to a powerful agent of change across the African continent. She spent quiet mornings in Malcolm's penthouse, looking out over the city, contemplating how far both she and the scholarship program had come. Each story of a student who had risen above adversity reminded her of her own resilience and the importance of giving back. She documented these reflections, noting the lessons learned about leadership, trust, and the necessity of holding on to hope even when circumstances seemed insurmountable. Chidima realized that her journey had not only been about personal survival, but also about transforming pain into purpose. She saw herself as a bridge between generations, a living testimony that trauma could be converted into service, and that opportunities denied could be restored with dedication and vision. Her active engagement in community-wide initiatives. She and Malcolm hosted panels, workshops, and conferences focused on systemic issues affecting girls and young women: gender equity, access to education, healthcare, and economic empowerment. Their work drew attention from policymakers, educational institutions, and NGOs, creating a collaborative environment where ideas and resources could be shared to maximize impact. Through these efforts, Chidima began shaping policy recommendations that addressed structural barriers to education and opportunity. She advocated for government support for girls aging out of foster care, rural education initiatives, and scholarship transparency regulations. Her proposals were informed by real-life experience and the stories of the young women she mentored, giving her advocacy a weight and authenticity that resonated with decision-makers. Chidima grew in confidence, resilience, and empathy, learning to navigate complex situations with grace. She embraced her identity fully, acknowledging the pain of her past while celebrating the triumphs she had achieved. Her relationship with Malcolm deepened into one of mutual respect, collaboration, and familial love, with both recognizing that they were part of something larger than themselves. Chidima's impact was both tangible and enduring. The scholarship continued to flourish, alumni were leading initiatives in their communities, and cross-border collaborations were becoming a model for sustainable youth empowerment. More importantly, Chidima had discovered the profound truth that her story, marked by loss, resilience, and triumph, could inspire and transform countless lives across Africa, proving that even the deepest wounds could give rise to extraordinary purpose. Chidima, standing at a large auditorium filled with young women from across Africa, all scholarship recipients, alumni, and community leaders she had mentored. The energy in the room was electric, a testament to the lives transformed, the dreams nurtured, and the opportunities restored. Chidima spoke from the heart, sharing her journey, the struggles she had faced, and the lessons she had learned. She emphasized resilience, integrity, and the importance of lifting others as they climbed, reminding everyone that their stories had the power to inspire generations. She reflected on her personal journey, from a young girl abandoned and denied her rightful inheritance to a woman who not only reclaimed her life but also built a movement to empower thousands. Her grandfather Malcolm stood in the audience, a constant presence and anchor throughout her life, embodying support, love, and redemption. Their partnership had grown into one of shared purpose, combining his resources and experience with her vision and determination to create lasting impact. The culmination of years of hard work. The scholarship had now expanded to multiple countries, with alumni leading independent initiatives, mentoring younger students, and running sustainable community programs. Chidima's Pan-African network had become a beacon of hope, demonstrating the power of education, mentorship, and opportunity to change lives and communities. She also addressed the importance of justice, accountability, and transparency, recounting the journey of reclaiming what had been stolen from her in her youth. Chidima's story served as a reminder that, while betrayal and adversity may shape one's early years, they do not define the future. Through courage, perseverance, and support, one can reclaim their narrative and transform it into a force for good. The closing scene depicted Chidima and Malcolm visiting a newly established community center funded by the scholarship program. Here, girls learned skills, accessed education, and received mentorship, symbolizing the tangible outcomes of a vision nurtured over decades. Standing side by side, they watched the laughter, learning, and empowerment that filled the space. It was a moment of full circle, a life once marked by abandonment now dedicated to lifting others, ensuring no girl would feel invisible or unloved. Chidima realized that her legacy was no longer about the hardship she endured, but about the lives she had touched, the opportunities she had restored, and the hope she had ignited. She understood that her purpose was larger than herself, that her pain had been transformed into purpose, and that through service she had created a movement that would endure for generations. As the story concluded, Chidima smiled at Malcolm and whispered, "We did it, grandfather. We've given them a chance to rise." Malcolm, tears in his eyes, simply nodded. Together they had turned loss into legacy, betrayal into triumph, and survival into service. This story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, hope can survive. No matter how much life tries to break you, resilience, courage, and love can help you rise again. Sometimes the people who should protect us fail, but there are always those who will fight for what is right. And sometimes the greatest victories come not from revenge, but from turning pain into purpose and helping others rise along with you. Let this story inspire you to never give up, to fight for justice, and to always believe in the power of second chances. If you like this story, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share with your friends and family so you don't miss the next powerful story coming your way. Drop a heart in comment, like and subscribe my channel, and visit my channel for more interesting story videos.